Hi, this is Donna Warren at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, and today I would like to talk about how we can represent objections in argument maps. Consider the very first relationship of support that we saw. This is the reason, this is the conclusion, and this is the relationship of support between those ideas. It's the inference arrow. There. That's an inference arrow. Sometimes, though, we don't want to cite an idea as a reason to believe that another idea is true. Instead, we want to cite an idea as a reason to believe that another idea is false. In that case, what we'll do is we will write a regular inference arrow just like normal, but we will draw a line through it, and we can, if we want, think of that as an outference arrow. We have the inference arrows of support, the outference arrows of objection. And just like we saw there were three basic argument forms, there are three basic forms of objection. This is one. One idea is being given as a reason to believe that another idea is false. We've seen that two ideas can work together to support a third, but with an outference arrow like that, now we have two ideas that are being given as a reason to believe that another idea is false. And we have two ideas here separately supporting a conclusion, but of course we could have two ideas separately objecting to a conclusion, like that, with two outference arrows. To see how this would work in practice, let's suppose that I am giving you an argument to believe that Lee is very smart. So that's the conclusion. Lee is very smart. Suppose the reason that I give you to believe that is that Lee reads lots of books. There we have the argument. Lee reads lots of books, therefore Lee is very smart. Now, we might want to represent some objections here to this argument. For one thing, I suppose we might say, I don't think that Lee reads lots of books. In fact, I have reason to believe that Lee has only read 3 books in his entire life. Now this is a reason to believe this is false. The fact that Lee has read only 3 books is a reason to think it's false that he's read lots of them. So we would represent that relationship like that, right? Now, suppose I want to object not to this premise, but to the inference between them. Remember how we evaluated premises a little bit before. We identified the missing premise that was necessary to kind of plug the gap here. And we had this rule. And the rule was we saw what was in common between the reason and the conclusion. We imagined that away. Then we put together an if-then sentence that had the front part, the part in back of the if but before the then, taken from the reason, and the back part, the part after the then, taken from the conclusion. So what this reason and this conclusion have in common is Lee. What's left over is reads lots of books, is very smart. We put that together. We have if reads lots of books, then very smart. Or if we wanted to make that a little bit more grammatical, something like if someone reads lots of books, then that person is very smart. Like that. And again, I put this in square brackets to indicate that I'm adding it. That's the hidden premise there, right? Now, what we have not talked about is how we can object to an if-then sentence. And this is really important and incredibly easy to get wrong. The idea is this if-then tells us what we can expect if someone does read a lot of books. It's only talking about people who do read a lot of books, and it's saying that those people are smart. It's not talking about people who don't read a lot of books, right? It's not saying that people who don't read a lot of books aren't smart. It's not talking about non-readers at all. This if-then sentence is only talking about people who do read. And it's saying that they are very smart. So if we want to object to that, we have to talk about the same group of people. We have to talk about people who read a lot. And we have to say of them that they aren't very smart. Not always, anyway. Someone who reads a lot of books might not be smart. And that is the objection to that missing premise. You see that? If I were to say, no, this missing premise is false because some people, might be smart even if they don't read a lot of books. Think about what I'm saying there. Some people might be smart even if they don't read a lot of books. I'm talking about the wrong group of people. I'm talking about people who don't read a lot of books. Wrong group. I want to talk about people who do read a lot of books. In case you can't tell, that's something that people get wrong a lot. And it's important to get it right because, in this technique at least, that's how we evaluate inferences. We find the missing premise, which we'd already done, but then we have to object to that missing premise, which will be almost invariably an if-then sentence, and we need to make sure we're saying the right thing about that if-then sentence. Okay, you might have to listen to that again. That can be a little bit complicated. But look what we've done here. We had a basic little argument with a reason, one conclusion. We objected to the reason, and then we also objected to the inference by identifying the missing premise and objecting to that. So let's think about what that tells us about the proper attitude toward the ultimate conclusion. All we've done here is undercut the reasoning for this. That's all we've done. We have not objected to this. Now we could, of course, and you know how it would be done. We would come up with something, put something over there. That would be evidence for the falsity of this. But without that, we haven't given anyone any reason to think that Lee is not very smart. All we've done is defeated this reason for thinking that Lee is very smart. Okay, well, I hope that made sense. As always, this is so much fun for me to talk about. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.